for yielding the floor to me. Mr. Speaker, I am Dr. Henry Archibong, representing the good and the uncommon people of Itibiono Federal Constituency in Akwa Ibom State. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the mover of this, the sponsor of this bill, because it is very, very important. Mr. Speaker, the reason why this bill is important is that the Stockholm Convention seeks to bring to us the import of the persistent organic pollutants in our environment. Mr. Speaker, in Nigeria, we are not too sure, and we've not really taken seriously the aspect of environment in our system. Mr. Speaker, these persistent organic pollutants are chemicals that resist biodegradation. They can stay in the environment for years without being degraded. And Mr. Speaker, in this House, we have always talked of how much we spend on cancer, how much capital flight, and how many of us Nigerians are traveling out of this country to India, to Dubai, to Germany, to United States for the treatment of cancer. Mr. Speaker, that is why this bill is very important, because these persistent organic pollutants are carcinogenic. They are very, very vital, they are very, very important in causing cancer. And Mr. Speaker, the earlier we prevent this cancer, the better and the cheaper for us in our economy. Mr. Speaker, these persistent organic pollutants, they help to suppress our immunity. And once our immunity is strong, we are less likely to get infected, develop cancer, develop congenital abnormalities. Mr. Speaker, it is stated that 1 part in a trillion, if you take a drop of these persistent organic pollutants and drop them in 1 trillion part of water, it is enough to cause congenital abnormalities in our children. That's why you see a lot of people that have a lot of birth defects. Mr. Speaker, these persistent organic pollutants can cause a lot of neurotoxic effect in our system. When you see an adult who wakes up and starts to behave irrationally, Mr. Speaker, you may not know, you can never tell. And so, Mr. Speaker, when we look at this issue, recall that some time ago, beans from Nigeria was banned to be exported to Europe. The reason was because some of these chemicals that are mostly insecticides are used as pesticides, as insecticides. And in Nigeria, Mr. Speaker, if you go along the market, you see that Nigerians are producing insecticides. They call them, I think I want to use the Igbo word, otapiapia. Mr. Speaker, these insecticides are being manufactured locally. They are not following NAFDAC specification. Mr. Speaker, the more you use them in killing insects, the more we are exposed to these chemicals. And so, Mr. Speaker, when we domesticate this Stockholm Convention, since we have, all we need to do is to enforce it and make sure that we start doing the right things that are supposed to be done so that we prevent ourselves from getting these carcinogens and all these effects into our system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Treaties.